I overheard a stranger on the Frankfurt trading floor whisper that XRP could triple in price soon. So I dropped everything to find out if he was crazy or if I was about to witness a crypto fairy tale come true. Now, for context, I'm the kind of person who's seen every XRP hype come and go. You know the type, right? I've rolled my eyes at those $500 XRP predictions and laughed off the wild $1,000 rumors. But this time it felt, well, different, because that whisper that I caught wind of wasn't from some anonymous Twitter thread or a kind of fringe YouTuber. It actually came straight from a CEO, right on the floor of the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. And here is the kicker. I learned about it because of our community. Shout out to whoever kind of dropped Oliver Michel's analysis in our free educational Discord server. The link is in the description, by the way. Come and join us and join the convo. Anyway, that little Discord ping, it sent me down a rabbit hole that I did not expect. So, picture this, right? I'm bleary-eyed at 2 a.m. watching a clip of Oliver Michel. He's the CEO of some investment firm called Token Tuss, I should say, standing on the actual Frankfurt trading floor, talking crypto. It was kind of surreal, right? Suits bustling kind of around him, I should say. And he's there just calmly explaining why altcoins like XRP might be about to explode. And I kind of literally felt my heart rate picking up as he spoke, because, this wasn't, him just spewing hopium. He was dropping real analysis and real numbers right there in the halls of traditional finance. Now, he started off by shift in momentum from the Bitcoin ETFs to altcoins. Basically, he said that while Bitcoin might still climb, the bigger party might actually be in the altcoins. How big? Well, he casually tossed out a figure of up to 300% gains on major altcoins versus maybe 30% for Bitcoin. So when I heard that, I nearly had to do a double take. I mean, 300%. That sounds insane at first, right? Like, who predicts that on the floor of a stock exchange without cracking a smile? Well, Michel did, and he backed it up. Anyway, his first example was Ethereum, right? Now, according to him, Ethereum has already kind of broken past this key technical level, the 0.786 Fibonacci retracement, for the kind of nerd keeping score, that is. Anyway, even flirted with a new all-time high before kind of correcting. So in plain English here, Ether, basically actually clawed its way back near its peak price, then took a bit of a breather. Now it's retesting its old resistance as new support, kind of like a rocket doing a final kind of systems check before liftoff. Now, what's the view here? Well, once Bitcoin makes its next move up, Ethereum could blast past $5,000 and officially kick off altcoin season. And at the time that Oliver was talking, well, ETH was hanging around kind of $4,300, up, from 4,200 dip just a week before. And Bitcoin was around $112,000 after bouncing back from about $107,000. So both big boys had recovered from a bit of a scare and momentum was building. He basically implied that the stage is set, and if Bitcoin even sneezes upwards, well, Ethereum's going to rock and roll and drag the rest of the altcoins on stage with it. So naturally, my ears kind of perked up when, he got to an XRP segment, because let's be honest, XRP often kind of feels like the underdog athlete waiting for its big break. Now, Oliver pointed out that XRP was trading at around $2.97 at the point of this particular clip. Now, consolidating just below a recent swing high of around $3.66. So picture a kind of racehorse then, right? Pouring at the ground beneath the gate. That was XRP in Oliver's eyes, and it was coiled, ready, but not yet set loose. Now, Oliver basically said that XRP is waiting for a catalyst. Now, it's not likely to sprint ahead on its own without the broader market moving, but once the overall market gets going, XRP could be primed for a pretty powerful breakout. And then came the kicker. The catalyst that he was eyeing, he said, was the magic letters ETH. ETF. Specifically, Oliver highlighted that multiple spot XRP ETF applications are on the table right now. No joke, the US SEC has over 7 spot XRP ETF filings sitting in a queue, with the final decision deadlines landing between October 18th and October 25th. That's just weeks away. Now, hearing that, I practically spilled my coffee, or Red Bull in this case. I mean, we all know how the promise of a Bitcoin ETF set that market on fire. Now, XRP might get its own spot ETFs. This was the moment that I kind of leaned forward, practically yelling at my screen, wait, did he just say October and ETFs in the same sentence as XRP? Now, Oliver drew parallels to what happened with Bitcoin and Ethereum. When the first Bitcoin ETFs were approved, it was like pouring rocket fuel on Bitcoin's price. The demand surged because regular people and big institutions could suddenly invest through their brokerage accounts. Ethereum got a similar treatment with ETFs, and Ether's price action proved that there was pent-up demand. So here's Oliver saying that the demand for XRP is already there. It's bubbling under the surface, just waiting for the floodgates to open. He even had receipts here, right? He noted that the CME, which is like the kind of big commodities exchange where institutional investors play, launched XRP futures not that long ago. And guess what? In just over 3 months, open interest in those futures hit $1 billion. Yes, with a B. That's the fastest that any crypto futures contract has ever hit the $1 billion mark on CME. Faster than Bitcoin, faster than Ethereum. So let that sink in, right? The suits are quietly placing big bets on XRP, and they piled in faster than they did for BTC or Ethereum futures. It's pretty wild, right? And that's not all, right? Are already future-based XRP ETFs trading out there, right? Basically funds that hold XRP futures instead of the actual XRP. And they've seen some pretty massive inflows too. Now, Oliver pointed out that those funds have over $800 million in assets combined. In other words, right, people are not so, patiently waiting to get in on XRP, and they are wanting to get in any way that they possibly can. It's like everyone is crowding outside the bakery before dawn because they heard that there might actually be fresh donuts, or in this case, fresh XRP coming out, right? Now, a spot ETF approval would actually basically open the doors and say, hey, come on in, buy as much XRP as you want. And the fund is going to be running the kind of ETF would actually have to go ahead and buy real XRP to make sure to back it. So Oliver's analysis here is that if XRP starts rallying in October, then boom, a spot ETF gets approved. It could actually create a feedback loop of FOMO and legit new demand that sends prices flying. Now, he didn't give any specific price target, right? Smart man, avoiding the kind of crystal ball trap, but he made it clear that he expects a strong move up, potentially even a new all-time high, if those ETFs get the green light. And I'm not going to lie here, right? Hearing this straight from, a straight-faced CEO in a suit hit different than reading some random moonboy tweet on X, right? Now, it gave me goosebumps, and suddenly those lofty predictions, that I'd kind of snickered at, didn't actually seem that outlandish after all. Now, Oliver isn't alone either. There are plenty of analysts and crypto veterans that have been saying rather similar things, right? I've seen people on Twitter or X or whatever we're going to be calling it now, confidently calling for XRP to hit double digits if the stars align. One guy that I follow, Zach Rector, he actually thinks that $10 is totally doable and even floated $30 by 2026 if things really do go nuts. Now, my jaw hit the ground at $30. That's kind of like turning $1,000 investment into 10 grand. It's the kind of prediction that, usually I'd roll my eyes at. But now, after hearing all of this ETF stuff straight from the horse's mouth, I'm actually at least considering the possibility. So could XRP actually reach a new peak, maybe even shatter its previous high and go into uncharted territory? Well, for the first time in a long time, I catch myself saying maybe, just maybe. Now, before we all start seeing dollar signs, let me hit pause here for a second and lay down a mandatory reality check. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your own responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. All right, so we're glad that we kind of got that out of the way. Seriously though, right, everything that I am sharing here is just my personal story and why, at least what I've kind of learned, I should say, not me kind of telling you to go and buy a truckload of XRP. So hopefully we're cool. Now, as part of me, kind of still that kind of cautious guy who remembers 2018 and 2021, when hopes were sky high and nothing actually happened overnight, I know that the SEC could delay things or even reject these ETF proposals. So if October comes and the SEC says, nope, not yet, well, you can, buy, or at least bet, I should say, that the crypto markets are going to throw a little bit of a tantrum. Now, XRP could dump in the short term, and all of this excitement would actually deflate like a balloon at a kid's party. That's possibility is actually rather real, and I'm bracing for it even if I am as hopeful as I am. But let me tell you that you're not, at least what I'm doing, and why you're not potentially alone in the kind of thinking here. Now, personally, how I'm kind of leaning after learning all of this information, right? First off, I made sure that I'm prepared for either outcome here, right? I double checked my XRP stash. Yep, I do hold some XRP, a decent amount actually. And I've been holding it like a lottery ticket for many years that might actually pay off someday. Now, after hearing, Oliver's analysis here, I didn't FOMO in and remortgage my house or anything crazy. Don't worry, mum, right? But I did, of course, decide to keep my XRP bags packed for a little while longer. In fact, I popped open my Blofin app. That's one of the exchanges that I use. The link in the description, by the way, is an affiliate link that supports the channel here. And what I did is I set a couple of cheeky sell limit orders, just in case we wake up to an ETF-fueled price pop, right? I mean, just imagine going to sleep at $3 and waking up at like, I don't know, $6 or $10, right? I want to make sure that I have a plan for that scenario. For now, all there is really to do is to wait and to watch, right? You can bet that I'm going to be glued to my screen come mid-October, checking the news, refreshing the prices, probably even chatting with people in our Discord about every little rumor, right? We're going to have an absolute blast, or at least a collective nervous breakdown, possibly even both. Now, this feels like we're just waiting for a rocket launch, the anticipation, the excitement, a knot in your stomach, and everyone is just counting down. And remember how Oliver also name-dropped a couple of altcoins. He mentioned Ethereum HBAR and Chainlink's Link token among those that he's actually quite bullish on. Now, that kind of got me a little maybe a little overshadowed by XRP's excitement, but it also stuck with me here, right? Chainlink, for one, has been making some pretty quiet moves. Like, they literally partnered with some US government people to actually implement Chainlink's blockchain tech for official uses. Kind of a big deal, even if it hasn't really been reflected in the price just yet. And HBAR, well, it's got its own enterprise partnerships buzz too. Oliver seemed pretty convinced that if and when the alt season really does truly kick off, those could be dark horses that sprint ahead. So guess who's also on my watch list now? Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on Chainlink's Link token and Hedera's HBAR along with XRP. You might call it kind of hedging my bets or just not wanting to miss out on the next big mover. Now, as I sit here today thinking about all of this, I realize that this might be one of those rare times where the crypto stars align, the technicals, the fundamentals, and a potential news catalyst all pointing in the same direction. It's equal parts thrilling and terrifying, to be honest, right? On one hand, I'm thinking, is this real? Am I crazy to even get my hopes up? And on the other hand, I'm like, if I don't at least pay attention, I would be crazy. Now, maybe the big reason here, or at least lesson here, is that sometimes the real story is where you least expect it, right? Who would have thought one of the most bullish XRP talks would actually come from the middle of a stock exchange in Germany, right? It took that to actually snap me out of my skepticism to a degree. It's like when your ultra-conservative friend suddenly says your favorite band is, actually pretty good. You kind of stop and go, wait, you too? Maybe that's really something here, right? So I'm kind of just waking up and walking away from this kind of experience with a cautiously optimistic outlook then, right? I know better to say, or than to say that this is it, people, we're going to be rich. But I also know that I'm not going to ignore all of the signs this time around. So if October brings us that XRP ETF approval or even hints of it, well, it'll be ready, right? With a mindset, with a strategy, and yes, with my trading app open. Fingers crossed, of course. In the meantime, I'm doing what any sensible or semi-sensible crypto enthusiast would do. I'm going to stay informed, I'm going to be chatting with the community, and maybe I'll even indulge in a little daydreaming of what could be. Because hey, after chasing this rumor from a Discord tip to Frankfurt Stock Exchange and back, I've learned at least one good crypto daydream, right? Now, here is where things, at least where I stand with things, right? Because XRP is on the brink of something that could be massive, or it could just be another tease. October is the make or break moment for XRP, and whether this plays out like a fairy tale, or I'm hoping for, or not, it's one hell of a ride being on the edge of it, right? And I'll tell you this, I don't regret dropping everything to chase down this whisper, right? In fact, it reminded me why I fell in love with crypto in the first place. It's never just about the money, it's about the thrill of what might happen next. So, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and join me for the next chapter.